Okay, so in this video, I just wanted to say the only reason I'm really making any of these videos is I've seen a lot of things on YouTube of, uh, these guys. They're very great players, and they're showing a lot of really good things to learn and stuff. But there's some things. When I first started playing, you got to figure was not YouTube wasn't around. Uh, we didn't have all this tablature and stuff, and I was really wanting to play, and all the heavy metal bands and everything. And wow, listen to this guy! Look what this guy's doing. So, um, just a couple of different things. I'd go to a gig and say, hey man, how did you learn how to do that? And these guys, oh sure, I just do this, right? I do that. I'm like, oh, and so then I learned that and I retained that knowledge. And some really great bass players, guys you wouldn't even know. I've even forgot their names, but some of the gigs I was going to, these guys were, it was just, thrash metal. That's what was around back in the early 80s. And so, see a band at a club and be like, hey man, how do you do that? And generally most bass players are real easy to, they'll tell you whatever. I learned how to play the upright bass, and a lot of things I learned on that. So I self-taught myself that instrument as well. I I'd go and ask some of these guys I'd see who could just really slap the upright bass. Like, man, how do you learn how to do that? Just ask them. I've always been that way, and I would say to a new player, go ahead and ask some of these guys. They'll be more than happy to tell you, because generally most people at a gig, they're all over asking the guitar players things, or sometimes drummers. But being a bass player, not everybody. No, it's something you just. I've always wanted to be a bass player, So so a bass player, they'll be like, oh yeah, hey, cool. Now doing the upright bass and stuff like that, yeah, upright players are. You generate a lot more respect with an upright bass, and so people do want to talk to those guys. But I was always able to just ask them. I've always been that way. Hey man, how did you do that? How do you do that? So basically anything I know, I'm just self-taught for the most part. And so the only reason I'm really getting around back to my original point is just. I think there's some things missing with what people should be showing people, like how you get to a certain level. You can, whatever thing you're doing, if you're a slap funk kind of guy, I do know how to do some of that stuff, but it's just not my thing. I was always more interested in the faster type of stuff, than Jaco Pastorius, getting into the jazz and things like that, and learning those scales and trying to apply them to what I was doing. Where there's all these other guys like Victor Wooten and Les Claypool. Those guys are phenomenal at that stuff. I don't even know how Victor Wooten gets his thumb in there to do that stuff, but slapping is not my thing. So. Anyway, this is just an exercise I'm going to take on the G major scale. I know the others. I like the minor scales better, but for this exercise, I just thought I would do that in G major, and this is a real simple one. All right, so let's check that out. Okay, so this exercise it's real simple. And it basically goes like this. Okay, so that's basically it. You know, I don't really know how many of these videos I'm gonna make. It just, I think it's just some important stuff that people are missing. You know, like there's some guys who really just jam, you know, and nobody ever really like, hey, how did that guy get there? How did that guy do that? Uh, you know, there's a lot of people who can just really smoke, like I was saying, those guys who can do the slapping stuff. That's great. That's awesome playing. I do know how to do some of that, but it's just not something I gravitate towards. So, anyway, I just thought I'd make another one of these videos. And you know, you might think, oh well, what, you know, why, what is that? You know, it just builds up your muscle memory, your dexterity in your hands and things. And so you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do, those things, like you'll get to a point you're like, oh, you know, oh, I see why he does that. You know, there's a lick that Jaco Pastorius does it. You know, he does a lot of those kinds of things. Different other guys too do some of those similar things, but they don't ever, nobody ever really, from what I've seen, explains those kinds of things to anybody. And if you're a new player, you might be thinking, oh, well, how does how do you do that? And you search and you search. And so I would hope that any of these videos, if you know somebody who's thinking about any of these kinds of things, just put it out there and share it and say, hey, check this video out of this guy. Not claiming I'm the greatest bass player ever. No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying I've been playing a long time, and I've played everything from thrash metal to southern rock and classic rock and funk type of music. I've played all kinds of things, and so just trying to put up something where somebody can say, oh, okay, I see how that guy's doing that, you know, and you might come up with something else and you'd be like, okay, you know, whatever it is, you know. And any of these exercises, you know, you could take it at any, you could take a major or minor, any key, you know, F, G, A, whatever. You know, that's up to you. And so anyway, I appreciate you checking out my video. Hope you have a blessed day. Thank you very much.